The Boston Red Sox may be moving some key pieces this offseason, but one piece that absolutely shouldn't be moved is utility man Rob Refsnyder.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox straight to your favorite podcast feed for free. And if it's free, there's no sense in not checking it out. So you might as well start your day off right with Locked On Red Sox, available on any podcast platform for free. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Locked On Red Sox as we sit and see what the next move might be for Boston. There's multiple avenues they can take going forward this offseason to continue to improve the team. And although they seem to be taking the approach of not wanting to spend a lot of money this offseason, which is a crazy approach to me because they're the Boston Red Sox, that doesn't mean they can't have a decent offseason with the right moves. And at this point, with where I'm at, based on the quotes that have come out from the Red Sox front office, which granted has been very minimal, they've been pretty quiet in terms of what exactly they're doing and the direction they want to take, because a lot of these moves have just come out of nowhere and there was no reports about any of this going out. So maybe they are trying to keep everything a little on the hush hush, but even so, they can still make some solid moves to make this team into a much better team in 2024 than they were in 2023. That might involve moving some more players around if they feel like the situation is right. Like I talked about on the show the other day, the potential of them moving closer Kenley Jansen. So if they are able to get a good trade partner for him and they want him to get them somebody who could be a young controllable pitcher or a solid pitching prospect, they can do that. And that's somebody who could make sense to move. But one player that the Red Sox should not move this offseason is Rob Refsnyder. His productivity during the 2023 season was pretty underrated overall. And on today's show, I'm going to be talking about his production in 2023 and why it's important to keep him in 2024. Now, one of the biggest things about Rob Refsnyder that is a key piece to me is that he's a utility player. He can play in the infield and in the outfield, kind of like Cedar Rafaela, just a more experienced version who has faced a lot more adversity in his career and just more obstacles that he's had to overcome. So Rafaela can get there to the point where he can be the everyday utility player, but I don't want the Red Sox to bank on that just yet with him being that guy. I've always been a fan of Refsnyder. Whenever he came in during the 2022 season, he always found a way to produce no matter really what he was doing, and he would make an impact on the field regardless of what role he was in. And that's the type of player that you look for on your favorite baseball team, is a player who can have a good head on his shoulders, be flexible, and be willing to do whatever it takes to help their team, even if it means playing a different position that they don't play regularly or having to move elsewhere on the field and shift for other guys, or maybe being a DH for a day because it makes the most sense to give somebody else rest. You always want guys who are flexible and willing to do that. And Refsnyder always has been that guy. The Red Sox could really move him anywhere on the field and he wouldn't complain about it or be unwilling to do it. And he always did it with such what seemed like a good spirit and a good attitude, always smiling on the field. And I remember him being mic'd up when the Red Sox were on Sunday Night Baseball this past season. And he just seemed like such a chill guy that would wake up in the morning, hang out with his family, and then go to the field, just like any normal guy does, for their job. They do their routine, they spend time with their family, and they go to work. And it just seemed like he was such a laid back, chill guy. And it's nice to have somebody like that in the clubhouse from the standpoint of saying, we have a guy who can help balance out personalities, somebody who doesn't get too overly worked up over things, but still can stay 100% focused on what's going on ahead. And that's a good way to make sure other guys are staying balanced, because it's easy to get in your own head and your own emotions when things don't go your way on the baseball field, especially in that sport. Emotions are so high and so prevalent. So if you have somebody in your locker room who can provide that sense of support, that sense of calmness, and that presence of, I want to keep everybody balanced, that's good to have. And I think Refsnyder provided that, and it was a little underrated because I always saw him smiling with guys in the dugout during games and just seemed like a good teammate in general for people to be around. And thinking about the times where the Red Sox lineup for the day would be released and Refsnyder would be in the lineup, and there would be fans on Twitter saying, why is Refsnyder in the lineup? For a lot of different reasons, but he would come in clutch a lot of times when the Red Sox needed somebody to. And when he would come in as a pinch hitter, he came through more often than not. And Alex Cora seemed to like him in that role and seemed to trust him from a pinch hitting standpoint, where he could put him in if it was a big at bat and the Red Sox had traffic on the bases and they needed somebody to drive in a couple runs. He liked to put in Refsnyder in that role. And it made sense because he did thrive in that position a lot. And one thing that stood out to me about the 2023 season that Refsnyder has was his ability to make everything look easy. I mean, if he got a hit, it looked easy. If he wasn't able to have a successful at bat, it was to him not that big of a deal, brush it aside, go on to the next one. He made just everything seem so easy, and he had such a calm presence about him. And that's so important when you're playing at a place like Fenway, when the fans are riled up and it's a hard environment to play in, and people will boo sometimes if a player isn't performing to the level that the fans want them to. It can be very hard on a player to play in that type of environment. And Refsnyder has shown that he's able to play well in that environment. So that means that most likely he can conquer really playing anywhere, even in the hardest of baseball environments, and be completely fine. And that's the type of guy you need on your team. So when I look at his productivity, I look at him as somebody the Red Sox definitely need to keep because of his versatility on the field, his ability to play well in the offense, in the outfield and in the infield, hit pretty well offensively, and be able to be one of those glues on the roster and that guy who can kind of keep everybody balanced. So coming up, I'm going to be going over in more detail what his numbers looked like in 2023 and why it's important to show why he should be kept. Are you ever looking for last minute tickets to anything at all? If you are, Gametime has you covered. I actually used Gametime the other day because I was looking into UConn men's basketball tickets with a few of my friends. And if any of you have seen my tweets, I watch every UConn basketball game. I am a diehard UConn fan. Grew up so close to the campus. My grandfather used to have season tickets to basketball and football games there. So all of that I am. And my friends and I were talking about going to a game, but we were trying to find tickets that were a little less pricey than what we were getting on a lot of the sites. So I went on Gametime, started browsing through tickets, and sure enough, found a great deal on tickets from them. And that's where we ended up purchasing the tickets from. Gametime is actually the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I've had so much luck and success with Gametime that you totally should check it out if you're looking for reasonably priced tickets for anything. Also, you should download the SiriusXM app because you can get the home broadcast of every Red Sox game straight to your phone, so you don't have to worry about missing a single pitch. Do you know how comforting and nice it is to know that if you have to work late one day and you can't get home in time for the game, you can at least feel like you're still in on the action? You can do that exact thing by tuning in and listening to it, even if you're on your drive home or you're running around doing errands. So download the SiriusXM app and search Red Sox, and you'll be all set to go for next season. Speaking of the 2024 season, Rob Refsnyder is a player who has bounced around between outfield and infield positions for the Red Sox. He's kind of been thrown into whatever position they need him to be thrown into. And that alone is a good enough reason that the Red Sox should be saying, we can't get rid of this guy. We need him. He's too important, because he's the guy that we can rely on to come in off the bench and play any infield or outfield position that we ask him to play. He's experienced enough with playing at Fenway through his past experiences playing with other teams and through his experience playing with the Red Sox. So he knows the ins and outs of that outfield at Fenway Park. And it's not easy to play good defense at Fenway because it's a very complex outfield. So that's why not everybody's able to succeed there. But Refsnyder is not horrendously bad in the Red Sox outfield, and he's made some really nice plays out there, and he can play in the infield too. And you want those types of guys on the roster. Granted, it was such a different situation with Kike Hernandez because for whatever reason, he just completely digressed after his first couple seasons in Boston. So it didn't work out after a while having him, but that hasn't been the case with Refsnyder. He's been able to show that he has the ability to perform well at a place like Fenway Park. And one of the biggest things about Refsnyder was that he could hit lefties extremely well. He went 55 for 143 off of left-handed pitching in 2023 compared to a 293 average of 109 for 372 mark versus right-handers. So 109 for 372 basically means that he made contact 109 times over 372 at bats and was able to record a hit out of it, as opposed to 55 for 143. So it goes to show that he was the left-handed weapon, and Jarren Duran struggled against lefties. So a lot of times the Red Sox would put Refsnyder in instead of Duran if a lefty was pitching for the opposing team, because he was the guy who could get it done against left-handed pitching. And people would be disappointed in the fact that the Red Sox were playing Refsnyder over Duran, but it was because he had more success when he was going against lefties. And that's another thing too, another reason why you want to keep him, because he keeps the lineup balanced in terms of the fact that he's very superior against lefties. And if you want somebody to come in and make a big splash against left-handed hitting and make an impact and get those big hits, Rob Refsnyder can be the guy. Another thing about Refsnyder that's important to note is his plate discipline for 2023, because plate discipline is something that can be seen as subjective. It depends on what you're looking at. And if you are saying, this person doesn't have plate discipline because they strike out a lot. Sure, fair. So it depends really on where the pitches are located that they're swinging at. And in 2023, in pitches outside of the strike zone, Refsnyder only swung at 18.3% of those pitches, as opposed to 59% of pitches in the strike zone. And in the strike zone, he made a miraculous 84.3% contact rate, as opposed to 60% contact rate to pitches outside the strike zone. So not only does he have a very good sense of plate discipline, because he knew a lot of times what pitches were outside the zone and didn't swing at those, so he was able to put together some really competitive at-bats. But when it came down to what he made contact with, he was able to make contact with both, and that equates to an overall contact percentage of 79.2%. So he is hitting the ball, and he is able to find ways to get himself on base and get those big hits, but it does primarily come against lefties versus righties. He did only have a batting average of 248 in 2023 with 1 home run and 50 hits, 31 runs and 28 RBIs with 7 stolen bases. This is all important to note because, yes, he's absolutely not a home run hitter. He's not going to get a lot of the deep ball for you, but he is going to get those singles, get those doubles, drive in runs, move base runners over. He's going to do all of that stuff that's equally important to a baseball team as guys who do hit home runs a lot. And the 7 stolen bases is important too, because he is quick with his feet and he knew how to maneuver his way through to the point where he could find a way to steal a base. He gets good jumps. He has very good awareness of what's probably going to be thrown, the windup of the pitcher, and when he can actually go and try to steal a base. And that's a really promising sign, is you want guys like that who are self-aware from that standpoint and are able to get themselves to the next base by theft when they can. He had an on-base percentage of 365 and a slugging percentage of 317. These are also important to note. You want guys who are able to get on base and also add to the bases that the hit gives them. So that's basically saying if you hit a single, but you stretch it to make it a double and get on second base, he's able to do that pretty effectively a good amount of the time. And when you have Red Sox hitters who struggle at the plate, like Trevor Story in 2023, when he came back from his injury and he was struggling to find his stride again at the plate, you want somebody ahead of him in the lineup who can try to stretch a single into a double and then hopefully put Story in a position to try to score that runner, even if they're only hitting a single. So it's all a spiral effect of what Refsnyder does. And I'm pointing out a lot of little things that he does right to impact this Red Sox team. When you look at what he's really done in the overall picture of it, it's all important little stuff. And if I'm the Red Sox and I move Refsnyder, that to me would be a loss, because that's a piece of that glue. The pieces to the glue that I saw during the 2023 season were, first of all, Justin Turner and also Rob Refsnyder, just from a way less of a degree than Turner, but more in the standpoint of everything he could do to make an impact on the field in a variety of different ways. So if I'm the Red Sox, I'm looking at it and saying Rob Refsnyder has made a pretty big impact on this team in multiple ways, and we need somebody who can do that. So we need to hang on to him. What can we expect to see from him in 2024? That's coming up. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. I know so many people who love sports betting, and if you are even remotely interested in it, you definitely should check out FanDuel because it'll help guide you through the best bets to make. Also, download the SiriusXM app because you can generate the home broadcast of every Red Sox game straight to your phone so you don't have to worry about missing a single pitch. It's awesome. I know for me, it's a great feature to have because I don't like missing out on games. So if I can't watch the game live, I'm quick to listen to the radio broadcast of it. So it'll generate that broadcast for you. Just download the SiriusXM app and search Red Sox, and they will have you covered. Also, Locked On has actually launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's fantastic. It'll keep you in the loop on everything going on in sports so you don't have to worry about having to go back or miss anything or feel like you're not caught up on the action and big news from that day because it's a 24/7 service. So subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. In talking about Rob Refsnyder and the impact that he's made on the Boston Red Sox, I am hoping to see a big season from him in 2024. He's been more than acclimated on this Boston Red Sox roster. Seems like he has a good relationship with Alex Cora, and there's just a lot of things that he does well. I think he deserves to play a little bit more than he did. Primarily, they wanted Duran to play because they wanted to help him develop, which absolutely makes sense. I'm not faulting the Red Sox for that, but I think they could split the time a little bit more in terms of maybe having Refsnyder start to play in some more games against righties to give Duran some practice hitting against lefties, because how is Duran really going to get better if he doesn't get those reps in against left-handed hitters? So I could totally see the Red Sox maybe trying something a little bit different and having Duran hit a little bit more against lefties, which means then Refsnyder would change his role a little bit. But again, that's something that Refsnyder seems totally fine with. He's the type of guy to me who is willing to acclimate himself and do whatever. And if the Red Sox were to move somebody like that out of Boston, then what would they really do if they had to sit here and say, oh, we wish we had a utility guy like Refsnyder on the team? Look at Brock Holt and what he did during the Red Sox 2018 World Series run. Now, I'm not saying Brock Holt or Rob Refsnyder are like the greatest players to ever put on a Red Sox uniform by any means. They're definitely under the radar, but they're good for their role. And the best way for me to describe Refsnyder is he gets the job done. He doesn't need to be the best player on the team, but when it's his turn to step up, he steps up. And if I'm the Red Sox, I value that type of talent, and I want somebody on the team who has that attitude and that mentality of, hey, I just want to continue to do what I can for my team. And the other thing I like about him is he genuinely seems to enjoy playing in Boston. Even when things were rough for the Red Sox in 2023, Refsnyder seemed to always still have a little bit of a smile on his face and a positive attitude in terms of everything's going to be okay. And I'm just grateful to be here and be in a Boston Red Sox uniform. And that's admirable to me that he's that way. And the Red Sox having somebody like that is hard to find. what do I expect from him specifically at the plate in 2024? I think he'll stay around the same. He's generally been around the same level of productivity in 2022 versus 2023. It's interesting to note the success rate that he has had. In terms of his plate discipline, again, he took 33 walks in 2023 to add on to that and struck out 47 times. So, yes, he did have his fair share of strikeouts, but the plate discipline kind of overrides that in terms of my concern level with it. I think if you take Rob Refsnyder's numbers and you say, oh, he has his strikeouts, everybody's going to strike out, but it's how do you go about minimizing the number of strikeouts that you get? And I like his strategy of going in there and doing what he can to be the best hitter that he possibly can be. And it'll be interesting to see what happens offensively with the Red Sox coaching staff and who's really going to be working with all the guys and what approach is going to be taken for everybody to elevate at the plate. But I didn't see too much of a drop off for him in 2023 to the point where I feel like I should be concerned in 2024. Obviously, you never know with health. Health is always a concern with any player. They're out there playing so much baseball during the year that injuries, unfortunately, are just bound to happen and are part of the game. But if I'm the Red Sox, I'm not seeing a sense of digression from him. I don't have anything that says he's going to digress. So my hope for him during the 2024 season is that he maybe even elevates his game a little bit more from what he did in 2023. I expect it to be relatively stagnant compared to what it was. I think it'll be around the same level of productivity from the plate. But what I do see is if the Red Sox don't end up finding a replacement for Justin Turner, which they absolutely should, his bat productivity is going to be so missed if they don't. But if they don't find somebody who's kind of going to be Justin Turner 2.0, Refsnyder at least is somebody who can come through in a pinch hit situation. So maybe he can be Mr. Clutch Jr. or something during the 2024 season. I don't know. It's hard to say, how effective that can really be. But every time Cora puts in Refsnyder at a pinch hit, I find myself going on Twitter and saying, I like the move. And I don't expect that to change in 2024. So I think he's going to be about the same player he was, continue to be kind of that under the radar guy who isn't an all-star by any means, but is doing enough to help his team and put them in a position to win games. And that's all I'm asking for from him at the end of the day, with him being that utility guy. I'm asking for effectiveness and for him to go out there and do his job the right way so that the Red Sox can win games. Because if he can do that, then it'll help hopefully fuel everybody else's performances as well. Don't forget, though, to download the SiriusXM app and search Red Sox, because you can get the home broadcast of every game straight to your phone. So you don't have to worry about missing anything. So download the SiriusXM app today and generate that home broadcast for the 2024 season. And also, don't forget to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, where we have launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. There will constantly be live streams going on of different Locked On hosts talking about what's going on in sports. So if you ever are worried that you're going to miss out on anything, don't worry. Locked On has you covered. You can get all caught up in all your sports stuff without worrying about having to constantly scroll through Twitter. So subscribe to that today. As always, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.